It's funny. You have to smile a little in the beginning just because that's where it catches the glimpse of the thumbnail. So
Mhm.
I've caught you and me making some funny faces, but we are live now. So welcome anyone watching, listening today or in the future. We're excited. This is Chicago Landlord Secrets, and we are on, man, we're getting close to 15, 16, and we're actually talking about maybe publish this into an official podcast. So welcome everyone, and thank you. I know a bunch of you guys have been talking about, you've been at least watching the follow-ups and you've been sharing it. So thank you very much. Tim, what is going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Our great state senate is added again. We got an update to the build act that we were talking about last week. There's now a competing bill that will try to solve the same problem of affordability, I guess, but in a much more interesting way.
I have not heard about it, so please fancy me on any differences. So yeah, I love when I hear new stuff.
So it is the REAL Housing Act. REAL stands for Reducing Expenses and Advancing Local. It's introduced by Senator Donald P. DeWitt. He's out by you. He's in. He was mayor of. What was it? Senator DeWitt. What was he? Hoffman Estates or?
Oh, really? Okay.
One of those. But yeah, so it's an interesting. The only reason I bring it up and I'm looking at it this way is it's not an area that I really thought would be coming for us as much. Like I wasn't thinking up by you that you guys were coming at landlords as much. But Republican, and he's the Republican leader for Illinois. So a couple of interesting things that you don't normally see come up with bills like this. But that also means that we're being attacked from both sides now. But the most interesting thing that it does, so the big thing that it does, or why it's a competing bill to the Build Act that we talked yesterday or last week about, is instead of forcing villages to allow zoning changes, which is what Pritzker's bill does, is it forces everyone to allow multifamily anywhere and allow for smaller lot sizes to be built on, etc. This gives villages the opportunity to opt in. And then if they opt in, they will get certain incentives from the state. I'm assuming those will be financial or whatever. They're going to have a fund and all that. So that's the part that I'm okay with. The other part that I'm okay with is it is creating a veteran property tax relief reimbursement pilot program. So it's going to give more tax decreases to veterans and disabled veterans as well, and make sure that they're all set up. And then it's going to do a tax reduction for qualified residential development building materials from 6.25% down to 1.25%.
And that's the tax on the materials, then you're saying?
Correct. Yep, okay. Exactly. So it'll bring down taxes and materials. Here's where it gets interesting. It also has in there capping real estate commission.
I did hear about that. So that is part of this proposal. Then I did hear about that this morning, actually, on Cranes.
So it is going to cap the full real estate commission. And me and you are very smart people, and we can probably sit here for a good 5-10 minutes here and not have any idea how the hell this would work. But it is going to cap the full commission for both sides. So in one transaction, the buyer and the seller's combined commission cannot exceed 3%.
Okay. I what I heard this morning, they said it was actually a dollar amount. I heard $3,000. I'm like, man, how are they going to do that? Like that's there's not even the way people spend on marketing these days on an expensive house. But okay, so 3%. All right, so that basically means that that things get cut pretty much in half right now, commission wise.
So yeah, I think it does. The weird thing is, I mean, here's where I'm like conflicted on, and it's an interesting thing, is we just had the whole if you guys follow real estate, and I think as an investor, it's smart too, because real estate rules and everything else is going to affect comps and bank loans and all that stuff. But the decoupling of commissions, right? We just had that for the last 2 years, where a seller's agent can't talk to a buyer's agent. The buyer has to pay the buyer's agent. The seller pays the seller's agent.
Well, price fixing, like that was the big deal. Like
that's the big deal.
Yeah.
So one, this price fixes it, and two, if you're the buyer, I'm the seller, right? How do you agree to a commission with your agent, and I agree to a commission with my agent? What happens when they don't match and hit 3%?
So that fixes it to basically everyone's got to go at 1.5% to be able to
right
to know that you're going to hit it.
So it just so we're just price fixing. I mean, like it's like forced price fixing instead of, I don't know. As much as this industry has been in trouble for price fixing and all that stuff, now the state government's going to come and
price fix
and price fix and make it where it is.
Oh man, that's good. Now, I don't know, but my first thought is, all right, and again, things change, and just hearing about this, I'm not 100%. Part of me is like, how do you run a business that way as a brokerage? And where's the aspiration to be a better broker or spend more on marketing dollars if you know you're capped no matter what? But then the question goes to, okay, the Illinois Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors, man, if there's a fight they're ever going to fight, like it's this one. I imagine, are they up in arms yet on this? I got wind of this.
I already got the call to action from IAR. That's how I found out about it. So they're writing letters and trying to figure everything out on that side. But look, I mean, if I don't know if we've talked about it on this show, but if you listen to my podcast, you guys know the battle I've been having with Markham and trying to get IAR involved and all that stuff. That lawsuit took a lot out of them. The multiple lawsuits that have happened over the last few years, their budget right now and their staff right now compared to what it was 2 or 3 years at all three of the levels, car being Chicago, or more if you're in the suburbs, IAR for Illinois, and then nationally, I mean, they're cutting 30-40%. So their fighting budget is not what it used to be. So if there's ever been a perfect storm to attack realtors and be able to get away with it, this might be the time.
Wow. That is interesting. Man, there's gotta be fight. I mean, if anything, this forces here's the reality of this. Like if I was, this is my first gut instinct thinking out loud here, is if I am the local board, the realtor board, I mean, you said they're sending out the notice of action, but I start raising money. The Compasses, all these guys, they do have deep pockets still, and they do have the ability to raise money, do different packs and so forth to be able to fight this. So if there's a fight for realtors to fight right now, that's wow.
Mm-hmm.
This could be big. What else is part of this? Is there anything else that's jumped out at you as the
that's the big one is it's really only cutting costs from the only real cost cutting is the realtor thing, and then it's just a lot of stuff to help build more homes, which that part I do agree with. We need to figure out how. Oh, actually, sorry, I take that back. It's going to cap. So, okay, that's the other part of it. I almost forgot. The other part is it caps. I don't know if you remember the bill that just passed a month ago. We were all concerned that it was going to cap move-in fees and security deposits and stuff like that, and that ended up not happening. This bill puts that back on the table. So it wants to cap everything that a tenant can pay. And get this, they're actually smart enough to include this sentence this time. I think they listened to our show. This includes condo HOA fees for the tenant.
Wow.
Are capped at 1 month's rent. So whether you're taking a security deposit, a move-in fee, whatever it is, 1 month's rent is all you can charge for someone moving in.
Wow. That's crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's crazy. There's just got to be so many downstream effects. And at the end of the day, that rule only has to be considered because there's just not enough options. Man, the options will create the supply. Supply will create the downward pressure in pricing, and the downward pressure in pricing, the renters will win, and they just can't get there fast enough. And I'm afraid, and you're saying it, that they're going to create all this stuff that's going to. It's really hard to get the stuff in place, but once it's in place, it's even harder to reverse those things. So
Yeah,
that's the shame of it all.
And at the end of the day, you're going to raise rent prices. You're going to make it like if I feel like I want a $2,000 security deposit and I have to collect, rent's just going to go up. Instead of 1,900, it's 2,000 now because I want that 2,000. I think that's part of it, and also you're going to lose more and more housing. Like there's going to be the single family game, which I think has been exploding over the last 10 years. The more and more of these rules, the more these individual landlords are going to get out of the game. And you're going to have one of two things. You're going to have Blackstone control everything, or BlackRock or whatever is going to control everything. Or there's going to be less and less houses to rent. And if you can't afford to get a mortgage or have the credit to get a mortgage, you're going to be living with your mom until you're 50. I don't know.
But it does drive up rents though still. So
it does.
I guess with the undertone here and the way I'm seeing some of this is the more regulation creates more opportunity for the people that are willing to play the game. And I think that's one benefit that real estate investors have here in Chicago is if you know how to play the game, follow the rules, follow the gray areas, all that stuff, you have such an advantage over anybody that's outside the market. And pricing here in Chicago is amazing still compared to the rest of the country. So learn how to play the game.
Yep.
Or hire property managers like us that help you understand the game and how to play it and not get in trouble. So
no, absolutely. And I think I want to touch one more thing because this is my prediction. I want to put it on record for the internet in case I'm right in 10 years. We can go back to this video and I can prove that I knew this ahead of time. The way we're seeing all these buyouts, we're seeing Real just bought Remax while we were in New Orleans, right? Compass is buying any brokerage that looks at them. I think that what we're going to see, which is it's funny to me because there was from what I know about history of real estate, there was such a fight against this in the 90s, but I think buyer agents are going to go away completely. If commission gets cut to 3, et cetera, blah, blah, you're going to have a team that lists it, and then they're going to hire people, showing agents, to show their listings for them. And you're going to have to go to each office and say, hey, I want to see all the list. I want to see these 5 properties that Remax has. And then if you don't buy those, you're going to go over to Compass and say, I want to see these 5 properties. So I think, again, all of this stuff, the real loser is going to be the consumer. And all the stuff that they fought for in the 90s to stop. Because it used to be, there was no such thing as a buyer's agent. You were a sub agent of the listing agent or whatever that was called. So we're going to go back to that.
Well, think about it. That's how it operates. Think about builders. Builders typically they might use an agent to be on the MLS or something like that, but their whole goal is to promote, bring people in, and if you don't like that builder, you go to the builder down the street. Yep. Same with commercial. They do everything they can to not have to cooperate and split that commission with somebody else. So their goal is to get as many apartment listings as they can through their marketing efforts and put them out there to the list of investors they built on their own. That's what a wholesaler does for the most part, right? You never take a buyer's agent to a wholesaler. So like the rest of the industry is like that. And that's how it was for so many years. And I mean, like you said, it just never existed. Everyone got scared with dual agency in the 80s. And think about this. The definition of a broker is bringing the buyer, 2 people together that for mutual benefits that want the same thing. And that's what you are as a broker, not how to market to another real estate agent that might have somebody that needs you. Like that's now it can be part of it. Don't get me wrong, but that makes more sense. So
that's how commercial works.
Yeah, it's exactly how commercial works. We're on commercial here. They do everything and anything to not have a tenant rep or a buyer rep. They want their whole deal, and they'll promote both ways, and they'll dance around the dual agency to make sure they don't violate anything. Everyone's represented well, but yeah, everyone got so scared of dual agency in the 80s and 90s that's where we ended up.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go back to it. I mean, not that it will be good, or not that it's good for necessarily buyers, because we still work with people, that all the time where we see deals fall through, and if they had someone on their side advising them, and I don't want to say the funniest thing, but the worst thing I see is like, man, that I talked to the listing agent because someone told me as an investor I should never use a buyer's agent because I'll save that 2.5%. And so I talked to the listing agent, and they told me that it was a great deal, so I bought it. And then they come to us and they think rent's $2,000 a piece each unit, and we're like, it's $1,200. Why would you believe the guy trying to sell it? And like, so again, it's ultimately going to be bad for the consumer that they're trying to protect, but we'll see how it goes.
That brings up another topic I have here. So as a property manager, you have conversations with investors every month, but all throughout the year of, hey, should I sell the property? They might have a turnover. They might have a big expense. They might have a problem tenant. Everyone that's listening is either investors or aspiring to be investors. Like, at what point do you encourage clients to sell, or what do you find yourself most likely talking them off the ledge about not to sell?
So I'll say the latter. I'll do the latter one first, especially we deal with, as a lot of you guys know, a lot of C and D class properties. So one of the biggest mistakes I see is people get, when they have a down month. And what I mean by that is they do an eviction. They have to turn that, they get the bid for a turn that's $10,000 because the tenant did some damage, or they have to put a new roof on or something. We see a lot of new investors that just don't have the reserves. And when they get hit like that, they get scared and they sell. Investing is a long-term game. So if you're selling because you had a few bad months, you're never going to win the game unless you can hold out for the 5 to 10 years that when it averages out, you won and you made a lot of money. So that's the talking off the ledge part for me. In terms of when it's time to sell, I like to look at return on equity as our biggest thing. So for me, at least, I think one of the coolest and best advantages in real estate investing is that you can leverage, right? So I can put 20% down and buy, I can put $20,000 down, buy $100,000 home. If that goes up 5%, I didn't make 5% on my money. I made $5,000 on 20,000, which is 25%.
Yeah.
But as you start to pay that equity down, now all of a sudden when your building's paid off, what are you bringing in both tax savings? And you got to look at the full picture too. That's another mistake people make. But let's look at tax savings. Let's look at rent income, and let's look at our appreciation. So how much did the property go up in value? How much money did we bring in? And if you get to a point, like right now, we have some condos that we manage in Lincoln Park that we're looking at, or Lakeview, I should say, where one of my clients is looking at selling because, frankly, just the appreciation in that area just isn't high enough for it. And so the money he has in, he's not making above and beyond what he can make in the stock market. And I think real estate's a lot of work to only be making 6 or 8% on your money. So what about you? How do you like to view it?
Well, I think I'll agree with everything you said. Yesterday on Strip Chicago Investor Podcast, we had Jason Wagner on there, and me, him, and Tom were talking about pulling the trigger to buy and not getting out too early. And time is your biggest asset, right? That's our phrase on the podcast. But you know what? No matter what, if you're gonna buy a property, things are gonna happen no matter what. Especially if it's a new property, especially if it's a 120-year-old property, and you're gonna have a $10,000 problem the first year and a half, no matter what, like almost unexpectedly. And you just have to figure out how to push through it, whether it's borrowing money, using some of your reserves, putting it on a credit card. Like, you're just gonna have to figure it out, and you'll never regret trying to figure it out. Now, that goes true with waves too. You get that turnover, and then you just spent $10,000 on the turnover, and then tenant moves in, and you realize, oh shit, my furnace went out too. Now you get another $4,500. Like, those things will happen, but then you won't do anything for 9 months or 10 months. You won't do anything, and those things. I think you end up. I end up speaking more about law of averages. Like, things are going to happen. They're going to come in waves, and your number one goal as a real estate investor is to figure out how to push through it and not fall victim to it. Now, there's some people that just have such high anxiety that just can't deal with this, and they just should not be real estate investors. I very rarely fall into those, come across those people, because usually it takes a lot of lack of anxiety and lack of fear to be able to actually pull the trigger. But every so often I'll come across someone that's just like, oh no, man, like you probably should sell. You should probably go back to stock market. Now, one other thing before I'll let you take over is dog properties. Like you were saying, every so often, and now is a perfect time. If you have a shitty property, or you bought it and maybe it's just a money pit, or you bought wrong. Don't get me wrong, you can still buy wrong, pay too much, and time will cure that. But if you just bought a property that it's a frame house, it's on an angle, and you didn't realize it, the under's been sinking, and you actually have termites worse than you thought. Like, just now's the best time. We're at a high part of the market. Just sell it. Let that dog be someone else's problem. Take your losses and maybe roll that to something else. So every so often you get a really shit property that all of a sudden I know you got to have this happen to you. They show up, hey man, I bought this awesome 2-flat. It's like, oh my God, that's a single family. The basement's a death trap. You have 3 layers of siding over failed brick. Like, I mean, it's like we get those. You just got to get rid of those, especially when the market's hot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'll also add to that. The other time is if it's part of your strategy, right? If you're looking to retire on, I think going into real estate investing with a strategy, like, are you trying to make extra cash for now? Are you trying to have retirement income to get you through? Are you trying to generate, like, what is your goal? But I'm also a big believer that it's a lot easier to start off with smaller single family homes or 2-flat. It's easier to get financing. It's easier when you're first starting to buy a house or a 2-flat or a 3-4 unit. As you start to build that portfolio, though, I'm also a firm believer that you can sell and move up and start to get things closer. And I think you're going to be more profitable with a 20 unit building versus 20 single family. I mean, assuming they're all in the same area and all, a lot of things have to be the same, but the closer you can, you only have one roof. Then you only have one place to drive. You can start to get all your things to be the same, your fixtures and stuff like that. So when you're replacing things, you can buy in bulk, all that stuff. So that'd be the other spot if you're trading up.
I can argue that one either way.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I always think about too is if you have 20 single family homes, right? And just say you buy in a halfway decent neighborhood, more than likely you're going to exit will be, I got some houses I bought in the last few years in Schaumburg, Hoffman, Downers Grove. The next buyer will be a owner occupant whenever I sell it. And that will not be driven by a cap rate. The apartment building I might buy, city, suburb, A, B, D, wherever class it is, it will be guarded and capped by a cap rate. So I think if you are buying 20 single family homes in good areas, I think you could challenge those numbers or that long term. And I do think if you are self-managing, which neither one of us would encourage, you do have the opportunity to self-manage a little easier, 20 single family homes versus a 20 unit apartment building. But I could also argue it the way you did. So I've taken both sides of that, but there is 2 sides.
I'm gonna push back on the cap rate thing though. And this is my thought on that is I feel like I can do a lot more to actually increase my value on a cap rate than I can on a market. Like, no matter what kind of improvements you do at market rate or at comparables rate, so for houses or 2-flats, etc., you need to wait for the market. When it's a cap rate though, if I can increase rents and do the work to increase the rents, I'm already increasing appreciation.
I agree 100%. If you're going to look at a 12-month snapshot, I could do a lot more to get rents up, or say 24, just say you got turnover units over, versus controlling a neighborhood and the pricing that's going on, the comps that you need to be able to support it. Totally agree on a short-term basis. You could add some sort of ancillary service to be able to raise top line and increase bottom line. So yes, I do agree on the short term with that, and long term, I would still be skeptical. But either way, what we both said there was, whatever your style is, whatever your comfort level is, and then I think you and me will both agree, it's about doing something versus doing nothing.
Yep.
I was talking to an investor on Saturday, and man, it was a couple of young professionals. I think these guys were in the mid-20s. They both had pretty good W-2 jobs, but they were messing around with $150,000 single-family home in Racine, Wisconsin. And I think it's natural. I did it too, right? I gravitated towards $30,000 homes the first 500 units I bought. And I made plenty of money, but I got lucky because it was on the market. And I was thinking, it definitely wasn't the cash flow that I set out to make. But you gravitate towards 150 because you think that's bearable. And but these two guys could put 5% down on $1 million 4-flat in any of the north side neighborhoods. And to your point before, get all the benefits of $1 million property that if they could qualify to get the cost seg, if they obviously they'll get the appreciation off $1 million, they'll get the pay, after 10 years, they'll be paying down equity off $1 million loan versus $120,000 loan. So it just ends up being a bigger play for them to either keep that longer term or selling it off. So one thing if I've learned from other podcasts is to just kind of think bigger in that sense if you're starting off, and don't limit yourself to small.
So I'm playing devil's advocate here to hear your opinion on it more than trying to give my actual opinion. But do you think if I'm a brand new investor, do you think it's just as like? Do you think I should put more effort into trying to get that $1 million loan, or hey, I only have so many funds, let me go get $100,000 home as quick as possible, and then I can trade up?
Knowing what I know now, I think you put the effort into getting the $1 million property. Now, the two people I was talking to, they both had 50 grand saved up. So if you do 5% loan, I mean, that's nothing. If anything, what I encouraged them to do was, hey, take, you guys can be partners. One buys an owner occupied one property, your partner's on paper LLC. Then you guys go buy another 4 flat. So I encouraged them to buy $2 million worth of real estate with the 50 grand each they had. Like that was truly leveraging. Now, here's the reality of it. Maybe it's not $1 million. Maybe it's a $500,000 property. Now you only have to come up with 25 grand. But I do think I would encourage someone to borrow that 25 grand from mom and dad and buy that 3 months from now versus trying to save up 25 grand and do it early next year. So I do think, I think the faster from the day you decide I'm going to do something to the day you actually close, like those type of things are the skills those are the soft skills that no one ever talks about. And those are skills of being able to move fast and figure out everything along the way.
You brought up mom and dad, which has triggered something. I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about investing and where to invest and how to invest. And something that I actually think is a great idea. If you have aging parents, and there's two sides of this, there's with kids going into college and aging parents, but instead of them going and selling their house and renting or a lot of parents are trying to get out of the equity or try to downsize, et cetera. If you have brothers and sisters, or if you can come up with the money for a down payment, buy that, be your parents' landlords. One is you're making sure that no one's going to dick around and screw over your family. So that's always a plus. But two, it's a great way to have a renter is not going to screw you. It should be taking care of the place, et cetera, and get into a property for a multiple purpose. And then when the time does come where they either have to move into assisted care or they pass or whatever, now you have that investment property to sell and it's in your guy's name and you have full control over it. You don't have to worry about probate or any of that stuff. So, and then the other flip side they were talking about on that podcast was your kids going to college. Instead of having them rent something, go and buy the house and they get 4 roommates and pay that rent and help you pay it down.
Love the idea of college, and I'm trying to figure out where my kids are going to school so I can get out ahead of that one. But to your first point, I think there's so much opportunity. I did exactly what you said last year. So it wasn't a parent, it was a family friend.
Okay.
In their 60s, they're looking to get some of that equity out. We purchased their property, and what we did was we negotiated them pay the full first year in rent. I did using those funds, the rent up front. We did a rehab. It was fairly light. We put a brand new kitchen, took down a wall, opened it up. It's a ranch in Schaumburg, so it was nothing square footage wise. We weren't working. It wasn't a huge sprawl. So to take 40, 50 grand, whatever it was, that final number, we did a lot, and we increased the value, and we're able to go get an appraisal and the whole Burr method, be able to pull money out. Had very little into it. That tenant will be there forever. I actually even gave in writing first right of refusal. They've been in this property for 37 years. They love it. Like they raised their whole family. So it's very emotionally tied. I even was willing to, again, they're family friends. And if they want first right of refusal someday to sell it, that the kids get first right of refusal. Maybe they want to buy it. Maybe they want to raise their family. Maybe they want to use it as investment. But that is something that now what they're paying me in rent is similar to what they would have went and paid for a townhouse somewhere. They didn't have to declutter. They didn't have to throw everything away. They didn't have to move. They didn't have to be so sad about this next journey in their life. They just had to pay me instead of a mortgage company. And now they don't got to worry about the maintenance either. So
yeah, I didn't even think. See, I wasn't even thinking that far ahead because I was thinking about buying. They sell the house and you buy something smaller or whatever. That's even a better idea. It lets them get there too. I mean, a lot of our elders, right? Our parents or grandparents, whatever they're at, they've been living in the same house for 20 years. The equity they have in there is they in the 80s or 90s, you bought a house for 50 grand and it's worth 400 or 500 now. If you were unlucky, it's probably worth more if you're in an area that appreciate it well. So to just keep them in place is even a cooler idea. And again, now you have that investment, you're getting the appreciation. They don't have to worry about the work, et cetera. And yeah, it's an awesome idea.
And we did a cost seg on it. And the funny thing is that cost seg we did, I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago. That was probably that was worth probably 4 or 5 months worth of years worth of net cash flow based on the write-offs I'll get on next year against next year's taxable income. So yeah.
Did you take the first year's rent out of the closing, or did you have them just pay it?
They paid it separate, so
okay.
I don't think we would. We paid cash, or we used cash to do it. But yeah,
I'm wondering from a creative standpoint. I'm wondering now, would it be possible to have that as a credit to go towards a down payment? Like if you're not all the way there and say, hey, they're going to pay a year worth of rent, credit it to you, and then that gets used as the down payment.
I think you definitely could, and especially if it's I think you call this an arm's length transaction, you can probably structure it even if they had to do it outside of closing in some legal way. So, yeah. But yeah, there's so many different ways to be creative with that type of stuff. I was talking to somebody today, building in your neck of the woods over in Pilsen. They're a tenant in a commercial building, and the owners owned it for like 60 years. 45,000 three-story building right off of 94. We've all seen the building, but like they have the opportunity to take this off. The owner is pretty sick, and he's going to pass away probably the next year or two. And they're talking to the kids now. So what they're going to do is they're going to tie it up in contract and take over all the responsibility. The son doesn't want to deal with it. It's got a lot of deferred maintenance. So they're going to basically lock in a sale price today to close in, I think, 12 or 14 months, almost like a contract sale where they won't take title, because they can't take title until after the passing and probate and all that, because the whole step up for the taxes. So right now, if the seller sold before he passed away, they'd have to pay tons of taxes. But once it goes to the hears, you get that the son will now get the building value step. It's called step up something. But if the building's worth $4 million right now, then they would get the building at death for $4 million, and anything above that, they owe taxes. So if anything below, they could write it off even. So, but they're going to kind of tie that in. And yeah, it's just such a creative way. We talk about elders, talk about family, talk about your landlord now that maybe wants to get out of the game. For that example I was telling you about Pilsen, I was telling them, like, you guys have the leverage. There's no one that's willing to pay more or able to pay more than you guys, because you're an owner occupant. You could go get an SBA, you could get better financing. Like in the long term, you can afford to pay a little more than that could if you go to the open market. So my whole point was, anyone that you has some sort of tie, if you're able to structure these creative deals, it's super valuable.
Yep. And then on the seller side, you brought up the step up, right? I think a lot of people don't. The 1031 gets used a little bit, but I don't think enough. But that's the end game for the 1030. I don't think people realize the end game for the 1031. You can keep upstepping and getting bigger and bigger properties. And the key is all that tax. Yes, you have to pay it if you eventually sell without a 1031, unless you pass away and your heirs take it over and get the step up. And all of a sudden that tax is never paid. So that's I don't think people talk about the end game enough of a 1031.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. What else you got? We got a couple more minutes before we wrap. Bears. I got a couple of properties now under contract in Rolling Meadows in hopes that the Bears end up there. But
nice. We got schedule release today. I know we're not a sports show, but we got schedule release today. The White Sox are 500 for the first time in 4 years. So Chicago sports are going. That's actually that's the other one that we should talk about a little bit. I don't know. Have you been following the stuff with the Fire Stadium?
Yeah, it's now the McDonald's Stadium. I think I heard.
Yep. The naming rights, which is it's crazy that McDonald's never had naming rights yet to anything.
It being a Chicago company.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of pushback on that from the neighborhood. I don't know if you've seen any of that.
I have, because the crazy thing is they're actually paying, the owner of Fire is paying for the entire stadium, but they're all upset about the price, the money that's being put into it for infrastructure. So, which I think that's money that's been allocated and set aside through TIFs for so long. So I don't know. I don't even know if there's a fight there, right?
I don't think so either. I mean, that area that he bought from the city was supposed to be developed in 2007. Like, the city's been sitting on it. They built the movie theater and you know, the stores over there, and then everything else in that South Loop area was supposed to be built on, and it's just been sitting empty for so long. The other thing you have to remember is they're being forced to build affordable housing. So, you know, yes, they're getting that infrastructure, but they also have to give back to the community and create housing for the community. So I think that's, the city sees that as an even trade.
Now, did you hear about the Sox potentially looking to take the train track parcel directly on the other side of the river and maybe making that their stadium?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. If we're talking about 2030, when the sale goes through and the new guy that owns the Phoenix Suns buys it, I see it happening. I don't see, Reinsdorf won't pay for it. So, and I don't think the city's going to pay for, like, you know, 20 years ago they got New Comiskey, that has changed names 100 times, paid for by the city, which is really, that's the most interesting part about all of this, right? Like, the Sox, where the Sox stadium is, the city has a huge interest in it, and you know, it's tied to revenue and things like that, whether they have to pay taxes or rent or all that stuff. And then Soldier Field, the Bears are only paying rent; they don't actually own it. So it's very interesting. The city's going to be losing this, but if you let the White Sox go and build wherever, now are they going to have the same issue with taxes that the Bears are having right now, and Illinois trying to charge them way too high? And it's going to be interesting to see there.
Let me ask you a question about the White Sox. You know, they've been in Bridgeport for 70 years, 60 years, something like that. Like, what happens is that a good thing or a bad thing for that neighborhood? Because the component, like, that's built up around Wrigley never really happened in Bridgeport. It's gotten better, right? It used to be very unsafe over there, but 25 years ago. But how will that help or hurt, you think, that neighborhood?
I don't think. See, the problem, people consider it in Bridgeport, and technically it is, but it's not part of the Bridgeport community as much as, you know, in Wrigley. It's 100% in Wrigleyville. The Sox stadium, you have to walk a good 10 or 15 minutes till you're getting to quote unquote Bridgeport. And I think Bridgeport right now is starting to turn into what Wicker Park was 10, 15 years ago. You're seeing an influx of coffee shops, an influx of food coming in, and things like that are sort of changing the neighborhood, and the demographics are going a little bit younger. So I think those changes, if anything, the White Sox might be hurting it more than helping it. But yeah, I would consider almost that Comiskey is more part of, not Back of the Yards, but what's the other area that's part of
Fuller Park?
Fuller Park, Back of the Yard, yeah, like that area. But if you called it that, it would have, you know, people wouldn't want to go over there. So
depends if you're buying or selling, right? If you're
yeah,
buying, we're buying Fuller, we're selling.
Exactly.
But that's a couple. So if you really look at that, if the stadium was ever to be removed, which, man, that'd be a big demo job. That is two huge parcels. You got the parking lot across the street, and then and the actual stadium. Like that's some huge land to develop. Probably some nicer, low density housing probably there. I can't see them doing too high density, but you know, almost picturing a South Loop type low level 3-story townhome type stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, someone would buy it for sure. And then the question would be, does it get bought out by the city where it's? I think, and we've talked about this a lot, there's a lot of campaigns to get affordable housing built. I don't think we're missing affordable housing as much as we're missing middle housing.
You know, I heard something yesterday. The messed up thing is, I don't know if it's messed up, but we just don't think this way, is what gets built today no matter what it is, becomes affordable 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Even if the condos, the people in the called the lower bracket can't afford a brand new condo, townhouse, whatever that gets built at that price point, somewhere down the road, our kids, our grandkids, it becomes affordable. It just becomes part of the housing stock.
Well, but if you can build right now, I feel like there's a lot of people living in a 3-bedroom house with 3 kids and a wife and a husband that would love to buy a 4-bedroom house. But that market doesn't, like the middle housing market doesn't exist for 2 to 3, whatever. But because of that, they're not selling. So now you have, that situation where you have grandma and grandpa not selling their 3-bedroom house because there's nowhere for them to go. If you start building these nice communities, these areas where they want to move to it, either downsize or something, middle-class housing, they sell, and all of a sudden their house now becomes affordable.
No, I agree. So, all right, man, we're at time.
Awesome.
Any final thoughts?
No, nothing offhand. So,
all right.
See you guys next week.
Well, yeah. Thanks, Tim, for joining. If anyone has any questions or wants to further this conversation offline, you have our information's on here. You can find us. You could tag us any way which you want. Instagram. Tim's actually got his phone number on there. So, reach out, and we're willing to help you in anything we can. If you need property management, we're also willing to help. So thank you guys for sharing this in advance, and we will see you next week.